Hey everyone, hope you're doing wonderful. John Coleman and Norm Schriever here for the T and Mortgage Podcast, episode 21, John.
By the way, I'm 21 years in this business, right? And I always tell people that I've stopped counting at 20 years. 21 years in this business. When we hear 21 months of a podcast, they're kind of going, oh no, I'm doing this too long. But wow, I still remember the day you said to me, why don't we do this? Because you knew I had an aversion to doing YouTube videos.
Yeah, you thought I was crazy. I had to talk you into it a little, huh?
You truly manipulated me into doing it, but I'm delighted you did.
Tell me about your trip.
New York. I did feel like I was leaving when I could. There was a lot more I could have done, if that makes any sense.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, New York is New York. It really is or was, the center of the universe, sort of. Not just because it's an American city, but it's a city of immigrants and culture, and represents.
I kind of got the feeling, because everything you'd seen on TV or whatever, you have a familiar feeling about the place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's it represents all that's right with the US, I think, more than any other city, and the energy there. And
I got to the tennis, by the way.
Yeah,
and that was pretty amazing. I got in to see my hero Novak on 2 occasions. I basically got into the Arthur Ashe Stadium with 20-odd thousand screaming drunk Americans. Like a gladiatorial feeling whereby you're quite high up. So I had to sneak down to get a better view at different points, it was amazing. Now, he was beaten in the second match, which was disappointing, but that's the nature of the beast in sport,
Yeah. And who beat him, by the way?
A guy that I won't pronounce his name, an Australian guy. Now, he was very good. He played really well. And he'd been close to beating him before, but like a lot of, in tennis or like a lot of sports, it's all about the fine margins, and mostly the greats come out on top of the fine margins, but there's always a given day where it doesn't go that way,
and it's very much mental, right? Like if someone starts getting a little confidence, the other guy plays tighter, and
but it was crazy. I got to see the American hero Coco Golf play as well, and it was I'd go back. In truth, I really would go back to New York.
And how about the Coldplay concert? Was it worth coming back early?
God, when I came back early for that now I got lucky. One of the girls that works with me, she had bought 2 tickets last year, but has subsequently had a baby and was on maternity leave, and decided best not to leave her newborn child to go and see Coldplay. So as her boss, I got first refusal, so I grabbed them over. Absolutely, I was expecting something good, and it was more like I went to U2 in Vegas this year, and I was kind of like everyone else. Oh, what an amazing place, and it was. But I was, as a concert, I like to be up singing and dancing and bopping away, badly, mind you. But and U2, everyone was sitting down for 3/4 of the show, just watching the spectacle.
Well, the U2 crowd, the average age is 59 or something, so it's past their bedtime.
Coldplay have a mixture. Coldplay around a long time as well.
Yeah, they have.
From the first beat that they started, there was 82,000 people in Croke Park in Dublin. Up on their feet, and pretty much sang and danced for the whole 2.5 hours. So
82,000 people. That's a lot of people.
Norm, over 4 nights, sold out over 4 nights. I would say they're probably the biggest band in the world at the moment. I did overpay a little bit for Coldplay. It was worth every penny.
Brilliant. And how's business going? How's everything on the mortgage side?
Well, this is the scary part or the good part, whatever way you want to look at it. I came back and I had 40 booked phone calls on the 4 days that I was back.
Whoa!
Yeah, and pretty much the same this week. So it's that's a great complaint.
It's a struggle. You just want to breathe, but then again, ride the wave, and it's nice that you have that much
Absolutely,
business, right?
and true. My view on this has always been that your clients are the most important, and the communication and you just like.
Yeah.
I know in other world businesses they mightn't communicate with the clients, and they leave them hanging for days on end without communicating with them. I don't operate that way. I feel that even if I'm nothing to tell them, and they ask a question, I respond and say, "This is where you're at. This is the story," and or not me, one of my team will. But no one. Ultimately, we have a good reputation because there's never a question left unanswered. So.
All right, John. Now on the T and Mortgage podcast, we're going to go over something that's very important to anyone who's buying a property in Ireland, whether it's their first time or they've done it several times, and that is bidding tactics and strategies along the way.
Excellent. Thanks, Norm. And yeah, we're 2024. We're 3/4 of the way through the year, and supply has still nowhere near the demand. I'm still hearing clients say to me, "Oh, the price is going for 100,000 more than the asking price." So it's a very, very scary part of trying to buy a home, a second-hand home. The new properties are a different kind of category. It's a price you pay or you don't. Okay, but when you're looking at a second-hand property and you see a price offered for 380, and then suddenly you make a phone call and they're telling you, "Well, actually, there's 450 on it." It can be quite daunting and quite scary, and it's something that, in most cases, if as a first-time buyer, it's not something you've been involved with that often. So the advice I give is kind of, it's more of a generality piece of advice. I try to say to people, come in at the start and try and close it if you really want the property, or come in at the end, and it's going to sound slightly Machiavellian, and try and steal it off somebody else. Right? Anything in between, and you're kind of just bidding against yourself. This is kind of my opinion. So just hypothetically, you've gone to view a house at the weekend, okay? There's a bid. It's the first viewing, right? And they're looking for 400,000. We're throwing that out there, okay? Now, if you there's no bids down. If you put a bid of 395 down, okay, you might think, "Oh, that's good. I'll just go close to the asking price." Okay. In my opinion, that's the wrong strategy. Okay.
Okay.
The reason being, okay, there's a few reasons. One, the seller wants 400. Okay, and that's the asking price. He may be open to get more than that given the market that's out there at the moment. Okay. So he's most likely not going to accept the 395. In real terms, that 395 will just be used against you. It will just be used to go to the next people who are viewing, saying there's 395 on this property. What do you think? Right? So here's how I would play that same scenario. Right? I would make a phone call. I would ask the agent and saying, "Listen, is there a price that would take this off the market today?" Okay. Right? Now, the selling agent has a duty to get the best possible price for the client, okay? But at the same time, he wants to do it in the fastest time frame possible, okay?
Yeah.
Purely because, well, he doesn't want to be showing it every weekend when he could be showing other houses. And he for every 10,000 or 20,000, the price might go up for him. He might get an extra 20 or 200 euros. It's in the scheme of what he get. It's not worth it. Do you understand? The quicker he can sell it, the better. So I always ask that question: if there's a price that would take this off the market today, you might get him on your side because he'd like to sell it quickly, and he could say no. You can say no and say, "Grant, keep me informed." Right? Don't put a bid down. Okay. Especially if you ask the following question, and this question is really important: Do you have any viewings lined up next week? Okay. Because
Hmm.
if there's viewings for the next weekend lined up, why would you bid today? Right? Okay. So you would not bid today because all that's going to happen is that price will be used against you the following week. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Now, fast forward, you're coming in at the, so that's how, what I would try to do is close it early. Okay. That may or may not work. Okay. So fast forward, you've kept yourself out of the bidding process. Okay. But
Hmm.
the price has been going up. Then you want to try to come in at the end, and that's terrible to say it like this, but steal it off somebody else. Someone who's now
Hmm.
kind of got to the point of where, like, oh God, this is going up, this is going up, right? And they become emotionally involved and they're getting either scared this is going too high or they're coming to the end. Where if you can come in, if it's at a price that you're happy to pay, come in and say again something similar, say to the agent, is there a price that takes us off the market today? Right? Now
Hmm.
you may even have the agent more on your side at that point because he may have shown this house for 3 to 4 weeks. He really wants to close this. He again may say no to you. Okay. He may say
Hmm.
no, it's going to be an open bidding, put your best price in. Okay. Again, you could keep your mouth shut, in my opinion, or you can put a bid in that might, in theory, be your best offer to blow the opposition away. I don't believe in upping a bid by €1,000 or €2,000. I don't think that
Yeah.
scares anyone off, right?
Yeah.
Um, and here's what happened I'm going to give you two stories recently. Here's what happened with a client who I had this very same conversation with. I said to him, go to your maximum, but leave another 2,000 wriggle room, okay? Just in case the other person comes back in by 1,000, okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So what my client did, upped the bid by 10, I think upped the bid by 10,000. I think this was a house at around 500,000 if I'm right. But I said to him, this other person might be at the very end, right? But they still might try to go another 1,000. And that's exactly what happened. My client went back in at 502 and that closed the deal.
Mm.
Right? Now, this client did something slightly, I don't say unusual, or no, I have heard of it before, but they actually wrote the seller a personalized letter,
Yep.
right? Explaining why they were from the area, their family circumstances, where they've been, just making it more personal and how they are ready to buy. And kind of, and that ultimately closed the deal for them. Not the €1,000. The letter was the one that seemed to. Now, ultimately, the people selling the house want the best possible price, but I think they didn't feel the other ones were as strong and they were as invested in the house, so they felt they could be let down by the other pair. So that letter really, really helps. Now, I'm not saying it's going to work every single time, but these are the things people are doing. Another client of mine was in another bidding process, and he happened to get there early, and the um, he met the seller and had a good conversation with him. And then it was going back and forth. There was bidding going on, and then he went back in, and then the agent was saying, "Oh, let's keep the house on the market for a little longer." And the seller said, "No, no, I like the guy who was interested, and he's the top bid. Close it out." So
Yeah. It's like a
sometimes,
personal thing at that point.
yeah,
If they're
sometimes,
rooting for you, actually, right?
yeah, sometimes human beings like human beings, right? Ultimately, there's self interest is the fundamental driver here, but at the same time, it, again, I'm going back to the psychology and the strategy, trying to come in earlier, to come in at late, but then added to that human touch as well, certainly would potentially help. Again, this isn't an exact science, Norm, but I do firmly believe that you can do the wrong thing that reduces your chance of being successful.
But that's awesome. I love those strategies or those tactics, that advice, because they're very actionable, and it's not also the textbook things that you'll hear about or read about when it comes to bidding. Those are really, I'm sure you've gleaned those over many, many years working in the business. So I think those are all great.
Yeah, no, no. Again, I always do say to people, I'm more than happy to act as a sounding board for them, but I would never
Yeah.
gamble with their money, nor would I
Yep.
purport to say, oh, yeah, follow whatever I say and you're going to get the house. That would be a very dangerous claim to make. Um, and I'm sure there are other equally strong opinions from people who might be just as qualified to give bidding strategy advice. I wouldn't call myself an expert. This is just what I've seen down the years
Sure.
work. And I get great satisfaction when I advocate this to a client and they're ringing me back and saying, John, we got the house. Thanks a million based on, I say, listen, this is down to you, not down to me. But it does give you kind of a warm feeling about it as well, you know?
Of course. Yeah. Anything that helps, right? And
Yeah.
you say, of course, the caveat is I'm not playing with anyone's money or gambling with anyone's money, but I don't think there's a lot of risk in those tactics either. I think it's the normal
Well,
process. You're not, yeah,
the one piece of risk is like if you're telling someone to go in with a bid that kind of tries to blow someone else away, like that a 1,000 bid isn't going to do that in my opinion, right? But a
yeah,
5 or a 10K might scare someone else away and say, okay, right, that's too rich for us, we'll walk away. So in a way, I'm advocating buying a house, potentially putting a 5 or 10K bid in that, oh, you might think I could have got it if I just put 1,000 in, right? But I don't believe you would. I don't think it helps, but that's just my opinion. As I said, I would never want to be someone else gambling with my money. I want to
hmm,
give you ideas. Ultimately, my clients would make the final choice as to what they want to, what they feel appropriate, you know. But
yeah,
I give
yeah.
them a proper steer, you know.
And when you're talking about, putting in a strong offer, not dabbling, because dabbling, raising it 1,000 is basically saying, let's keep the process going. And the other buyers will, have a chance to respond and raise 2,000, right? But when
Yeah.
you're sort of blowing them out of the water, hey, here's a super serious, great offer, 5, 10,000 euros more. Let's do this or not do it.
Yeah, and that
You
would be
are
what
risk.
like sometimes that works by the way, purely just asking the agent, can we
Yeah.
is there a price? Now, sometimes they'll say no, right? But if you don't ask, you don't get is my philosophy on this, you know.
Yeah. And why
Um,
not ask, right? It's
yeah,
free,
and
free to ask and
ultimately,
there's no risk. Yeah.
yeah, because ultimately the seller, there's a kind of a lot of psychology is played. There's the seller, your psychology of not wanting to pay too much, but still wanting it. So where does that play? The psychology of the person selling the house who kind of goes, who can be greedy or could be scared of not getting, and they suddenly get an offer that's 10K more than what they had. Well, then suddenly, okay, I would close it because if I don't take that, maybe I wouldn't get to that point, you know.
Yeah.
And then you have the psychology, as I call it, of the selling agent, who ultimately needs to and want to get the best possible price for the seller, but in the quickest time frame possible. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny. On the flip side of this, I gave a friend of mine, a guy that gives me squash lessons, right? He was selling a house, right? And I gave him the following strategy. I said this was on the flip side. So he arranged with the seller a certain rate, but then he increased the rate because for every 10,000 more than the app that they sort of the benchmark, so that he knew that
Hmm.
the selling agent would be 100% motivated to try to get the best possible price for him, rather than the same rate, whether it's 300,000 or 310. Well, then the extra 10K on the price for the selling agent isn't worth that much. But if there's a higher
Hmm.
percentage, so I kind of flipped that advice, flipped the advice to help my friend who was selling a house at the time, you know.
Interesting. No, that's great. Great advice. Great tactics. I think people definitely could. And of course, if someone wanted just to chat, they're going to be chatting with you about the mortgage process anyways. But if they
Yeah,
wanted
and that's
to
what I
talk,
always say to
yeah.
them when we get them approved with the bank, when they know what their ultimate budget is, because ultimately in theory, we'll get them the maximum available if that's what they wish for or look for. Then I always say to them, right, you're approved now. That approval lasts for 6 months. That's not the end of our role in this process. You now need to go and find a home. But if you need my thoughts or my opinions on that, then feel free to reach out. As I said, I wouldn't ever want anyone to think that I was making them bid more than they wanted to. So it's a sounding board more than anything else that I would put myself forward as, you know.
I love it. Good stuff. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Tea and Mortgage episode number 21. We hope you got something out of it.
And again, thanks from me, John Coleman. Looking forward to talking to you all next month.